Inside the Connection, a podcast by HCTC, the Hill Country's leader in telecommunications products and services. Do you ever look up into the night sky and wonder what is out there? Well, welcome to Inside the Connection, a podcast where we take a deeper dive into the articles of our bi-monthly magazine. Our guest today is Francis Walsh. He's the marketing officer of Cosmic Obsession Kerrville. And today we're talking about the article called Out of This World. The article was printed in our July-August 2020 Connection magazine. As a side note, all of our publications are on our website at hctc.net. Then you go to resources and then to news, and there you'll find a tab for newsletters. As with most news articles, there's always more to the story than what we could print. So thank you again for joining us today as we talk with Francis Walsh and we take a deeper look inside the connection. So Francis, thank you so much for joining us today. I've been looking so forward to talking about space and the observatory and telescopes, and I mean the whole topic is just exciting. I mean, so give us the quick overview. How did all this come about, and what do you do? And I want to ask all the questions up front, and I know that's not how you do this, but I'm real excited about this podcast.
Well, hello, Carrie. How are you? And hello, everybody who's listening. Thank you for having us on the podcast today. Very, very happy to be here and happy to share information about outer space with you and the listeners, for sure, for sure. Well, Carrie, you just asked a question that spans 10 years.
Okay.
Well, you got 10 years? No.
Not quite that long, but
yeah, I'm going to chop it down because I'll tell everybody it's been a fantastic ride of 10 years for me and my family. Carrie said I'm marketing director. I'm son-in-law to the great astronomer who Bob, my father-in-law, who runs and operates and built and thought up and created the idea and brought to life this observatory in Kerrville, Texas. Thank you to Bob and Debbie, first and foremost, for that. And then past that, what's left? Outer space and a way to go out and see what's there, right? Outer space is something, in my opinion, I put an IMO in it. There isn't enough outlets for people to hear about outer space. Like, how many times a week has someone told you where Saturn will be tonight? That you might go out at night and go say, oh, there's Saturn. Or same thing for Jupiter, which I'm going to tell you a little later in this discussion exactly where you're going to go see it tonight. Perfect. If you want to.
Yes.
So it's this kind of connection with outer space that I'm trying to bring to people like the listeners. My father-in-law is trying to deliver our eyes into the skies with the observatory in Kerrville. And the only way he can do that, if everybody knows about internet and everybody knows about internet, you need a great internet connection to do that. And we use that internet connection to deliver outer space to as many people as we can. You know, it'd be easy to say, oh, we deliver outer space to the world. I can send signals out around the globe, but I know that there's a limited amount of people that I can actually reach. But I'll tell you, that's who we're trying to reach with astronomy. And that's why I'm here and happy to talk to you about it, because even if it's one listener or two listeners, a parent, a kid who gets interested in outer space because they listen to somebody like me, that's it. I'd like to say my job is done, but my job actually, it won't be done. I won't be happy until, let's see, 10,000 people are into astronomy because of me. I don't know.
That's good. That's a good number. Well, and that's a good point. You actually plant the seeds for individuals to take and develop. Who knows what? Maybe somebody develops the science and the technology for telescopes. Maybe somebody gets excited and they actually go to work for NASA.
Go to Mars.
There you go. That Mars is on. We've talked about Mars a lot for the last handful of years.
Let me tell you I'm going to give you a left field. I happen to work with and mentor a teacher in Cameroon, Africa, who wants to be the first space tourist from Cameroon.
Wow.
So
So people are already having those conversations, and you're helping to facilitate that. And I
Well,
mean,
it's so much fun. I mean,
wow,
helping people and people say, well, why do you, some people have asked before how and why you do things, but I found now that if it makes you happy, that's the only thing you need,
sure.
right?
Well, just looking at the photographs that are in this magazine, it's hard to imagine that is real. That's really those are your photographs that we published, and I just can't imagine looking into a piece of equipment like a telescope and seeing those images. I mean, how exciting! I mean, once again, I'm excited about this because the subject matter is just absolutely fascinating. So you really do see images like that
Well, I'm
out
going
in
to paint a
space.
picture. Let me try to paint a picture here because it's important. Visual astronomy and astrophotography have barriers between them.
Okay.
What we can see with our eyes when we look in a telescope is different than what we can capture with a camera. And I'm going to try to bridge something. But first, I wanted to say something collaboration. Bob's got the equipment, the telescope. He's in the right place. Location, location, location. I'm outside of Houston, 4 hours away. I've got the outreach. I'm talking, I'm talking, I'm talking. We have all this support from all our friends. A great collaboration of bringing outer space. You know, you understand, and collaboration with our internet provider because we, but the observatory. Just to know, you have to drive 45 miles or 45 minutes. Let me say 45 minutes through absolutely nothing. You
Right.
know, farm. You know, just undeveloped land. A 45-minute drive from a highway or a route to the observatory. So it is out there in the middle of God's country.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And so you have an obvious vulnerability of how are you going to access internet to do what you want to do because the plan to make the observatory came before how are we going to hook up the internet, right?
Okay.
And that's normally how things go. You got a goal and you had to put all the pieces together. And something like an internet connection, which is very vital, and I'll tell you why in a second, is important in the end. And quickly, I'll get to it. We have a friend in New Jersey, Joe. He has a telescope in our observatory in Texas. He operates his telescope in Texas from his home in New Jersey.
Wow.
How can you do that without internet? How
Sure.
can you do that without a cell phone tower close enough to you to get the connection? That was an issue. There was
Right.
no cell phone towers. So now, but no extra. I have. That's one thing I lack is a knowledge of how y'all did it. But now we are capable of having enough bandwidth to make these connections so that Joe can operate his telescopes, that we can be on Facebook. We can do live broadcasts because Joe in New Jersey is owner of a website where you can go and see live stream from his telescope and others. It's a collaborative event on a website called nightskiesnetwork.com.
Perfect. In fact, if there are things like that that you want to talk about through the podcast, please do, because I'm sure our listeners would love to say, where can I see these pictures? Where can I read this? So tell us his website again.
Yeah. Joe's website is nightskiesnetwork.com.
Okay.
And there are a number of users who, because people love to show off once they get into it, what's going on with their telescopes. And there
Sure.
are many, 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 a million more, question mark, amateur astronomers with telescopes and cameras that can now connect to the internet and looking for a place to go so that they can broadcast their live feed. And they do on a place like nightskiesnetwork.com. And so Joe's in New Jersey, his telescope's in Texas, his website's getting people from Florida and Canada and all around the US and beyond, and collaboration. So people are like, okay, collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. How can I help? How are you going to collaborate with me?
Right.
Right. And I guess that's the hardest question to answer because people are spread out over far distances, right?
So,
Um,
just one quick question on that. So, I know the internet has certainly been coming of age. I don't know the last 15 years, maybe something like that. And speeds are getting, faster and faster and every day, every year. So I guess this type of collaboration just wasn't possible without a product like the internet. Is that safe to say?
Hmm. Yeah, that's
I'm not trying to put my own commercial
no,
in
no,
the middle
no,
of
no,
this.
no, no, no. Because
However,
I'll tell you, Carrie. Me and my brother put together our first computer in 1986, and we connected to the servers on the University of West Virginia.
okay.
That was the first internet. Okay.
Wow.
In order to connect, and what we would do is we would play a mud game, which was just a numbers game, and
Uh-huh.
it was the internet back in 1986. We don't have to go very much farther. 34 years is, I guess, not that much further down the road, but now we're capable of so much more right now. And then the future of space-based constellations and grids and how that's going to incorporate with infrastructure already for internet. We're going full-blown technology with sensors. You're going to have advertisements know that you're walking by, just like the movies. And so the
Sure.
only way that you can do that is through quick access, smart internet service, smart equipment. I wanted to get back to something about, because I don't want to get too far away from astronomy. I do want to make this as much of a lesson if I can. Uh, what we see through a telescope eyepiece when we're in the right place at the right time is much different than what a camera can capture over a period of time. And time could be a year, because
Okay.
a camera will take one image of an object in the sky, and it can repeat that over and over and over again.
Sure.
And then what a person like Bob does, the amateur astronomer, because now that he has wonderful telescopes and all these things, people may say, is he out there with his eye looking in the eyepiece? No, he's taking individual snapshots of space, and each snapshot captures a little bit of light from that
Okay.
object, and the next will capture a little more and a little more, and then he'll have to go into software programs, PixInsight, Photoshop, Registax. Oh, there's many, many more. I can't even speak more. And they put all those pictures together into one.
Oh, okay. I
And
see.
all that captured light turns into the fabulous images that you'll see inside the Connections magazine right now.
Okay.
So when you
Sure.
go to page 8 inside the magazine and you see the lovely page, I love that page. I love the article. Thank you very, very much. I love the color black, when especially we're night sky. Perfect. But those images are multiple images layered together, resulting in that.
Okay.
And people have to, and I have to share this with people. I have to almost let them down a little bit, which is, but it's okay, because it's all right, because we have fabulous pictures, and we have amateur astronomers like Bob, who's constantly taking them. So we can connect when you can bring that time, that moment in time, closer to now. People can connect better to it.
Sure.
So I can take them out with a telescope, and we'll go look at the planets. Jupiter is out tonight, the brightest object in the sky in the east. You'll see it. You can't miss it. Put a pair of binoculars to it, and you'll see its moons. Okay?
Really?
It gives you, yes, oh, yes. And it immediately will connect you. It gives me tingles talking about it. It immediately connects you in a way that you may never have been connected to the solar system before, because it gives you a spatial view of your perspective of where it is and where you are here on Earth. I had a coworker, very smart guy, project manager, come to me and say, sometimes I feel claustrophobic here on Earth. It's like we're the only thing here, right?
That's right. Right.
And it's okay. It's a way to think. But then I gave him a picture of the comet, which we took recently, of a comet that was in the sky just recently. Comet
Yeah.
Neowise spent a month or so in our skies. The Great Comet of 2020. Nobody's saying it, but I will. Great Comet of 2020. Pandemic and whatever. was in the skies, and I gave him a picture of the comet, and he said, I went home and I thought about it, and I looked at the picture, and that gave me more relief. And I said, wait till I show you Jupiter, you know,
Wow. Sure.
because when I show him Jupiter, and I haven't yet, he'll be like, okay, that's it. I don't got to worry about that anymore. It's out over there, and we're right here. Uh, part I don't know. Neat note right now is that there are a lot of planets on the same side of the sun. Okay, us, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, a lot, and it's rare. So that means it sets up a scenario where seeing these planets, we're in a good time, right? We don't have to look across the sun. If they're on the other side of the sun, you're not
Sure.
bad. I'm sorry, Ma, I had to use that word. You're not going to see them across the sun, but if they're all on the same side with you, when you're at nighttime, you're going to get an opportunity to look out
Right. That makes
and see
sense.
them. And so, again, I repeat, brightest object in the night sky after the sun sets is going to be the planet Jupiter. If you can get a pair of binoculars on it, you should see 2, 3, or 4 moons. Those little bright objects around it are not other stars, they're its moons. If you look at it tonight, you'll see it one way, and if you go out there tomorrow, the moons will move, and you'll be able to, like the astronomers of old, you'll become an instant observational astronomer. And if you go out there with a
There you
little
go.
notepad, you say, draw a dot and say, okay, there's
Uh
Jupiter, and there's the point of that moon, and you make those little drawings, and then you bring it out the next night. And as soon as you make the second drawing, you're an astronomer.
huh. There you go. So we have a new task for our listeners tonight is to go out.
Do it.
And now we'll say this: many people in the hill country have binoculars, but probably the biggest binocular telescope type of thing that people have are deer scopes or scopes on their rifles.
Spotting
Spotting.
scopes.
So please, I don't want to get a call from people saying that everybody's outside with their deer rifles up in the air looking at planets.
Well, no,
So
but I'll tell most people, if most people do have a spotting scope is different than a scope on a rifle.
okay.
I don't know. I don't know where that came from. I would have never thought of that. And in my whole thing, I would have never thought. And I'm not going to recommend that, especially without good trigger control. I'm sorry,
That's
no.
right. So how long? This may take me a day or two to get this podcast out there. So how long will these
October,
planets be
maybe.
lined up? Really,
Maybe,
that
yeah.
long?
Well,
Okay.
now the thing is, with each successive night, the planets will move a little bit farther toward the west
Okay.
because that's the way they're moving. With each successive night, they'll get a little closer to the west until eventually they'll get to the west and they'll go below the horizon. But because right now they're pretty prominent when the sun goes down, they're up there, right? Pretty prominent in the sky. There's Jupiter and Saturn. Saturn is just to the left a little bit and dimmer. So with a good
Okay.
set of binoculars, you might be able to see the rings of Saturn. Opportunities.
Wow.
This is the opportunity to go out there and make a connection with two the two gas giants of our solar system. Dum dum dum.
That's just. I mean, that's just absolutely fascinating to. I mean, I've always seen their pictures in a science book in high school or whatever, but to really see that,
You could see the red
and
spot if you got a
that's
good.
that's
Yeah,
amazing.
you could. Yeah, I think. I think. Well, again, the red spot rotates around Jupiter, so if you wait long enough, you'll be able to see the red spot.
Sure.
We have.
Wow.
I am friends. Facebook has given me, internet has given me the ability to connect to so many wonderful astrophotographers and astronomer friends and folks who are just interested in astronomy. I get to see the universe so beautifully, and if I could say anything to the people who may not have that input from someone else, try to find out. If you're listening to this, continue the search into outer space, because I haven't talked about asteroids, I haven't talked about comets, I haven't talked about meteor showers, meteor storms,
Wow. Wow.
comets that have multiple parts, all sorts of stuff. And we haven't even gone outside our solar system and outside our galaxy, because the summer is galaxy season for astrophotographers like Bob. Summer is a good time to go out and see a lot of galaxies in the sky.
Okay.
And so they'll you know, he recently took a picture of the part of the Veil Nebula. Now let's see. Let's take a moment, if I may, and let people find out how can they connect with Cosmic Obsession. How are they? Who's Francis? How can I see what's going on over there?
Please.
Our website, cosmicobsession.com, it's almost like a place card. You can send an email through the form and we'll get it. But if you want something from yesterday or you want something from the day before, our Facebook page is really the place to be. And I have experience with podcast listeners. I'm sorry if you don't use Facebook because we use it so heavily. I know there's some users who don't. Gosh, it's really hard for us because I'm not using Twitter and I'm not outputting much in some of the other social programs. So Facebook is a great place to see all of our information.
Perfect. Good.
Right. And now cosmicobsession.com, you can come to the website and leave us a note and say, send me more and I'll send you emails. I'll figure out a deal. I'll figure something out.
Yeah.
Because we do contact and speak with people who come and they don't use these other platforms, and it's okay. I have to say it's okay for people not to sometimes because they're tired of people coming and saying, well, I only use this, and they don't use it. So
True.
I don't
It's
want to
true.
say sorry, but I just want to say it's okay. We'll work something else out.
Perfect.
So,
well, I do have to ask one question. Your article that we published here talked about trying to be the first one to find something
oh,
out there. So you really can. I mean, that's a real possibility that you could be the first one to find a comet or star or planet or something. I mean, that's
Carrie,
have it
Carrie,
named
Carrie,
after
Carrie,
you.
Carrie. I'm sorry, Carrie. I'm going to do this to you. Carrie. It's the universe, my friend. It's the
Okay.
universe.
Right. Okay. So it's a big
It,
place.
it's like what do we call that? It's like the anti Seinfeld show where nothing happens. In the universe, everything happens.
Everything happens.
Okay, and
Okay.
all you have to do is be looking at the right time and in the right place, and you can see amazing things. And
Wow.
you just can't say it. So okay, so I'm just glossed over the whole thing. They say, well, prove it. Right? It's okay. So I'll tell you. I'll tell you the observational astronomer's way to find something uh, rather quickly. Everything that's out in space, our solar system is one thing. Let's stop thinking about planets because they are pretty set as far as we know and where they're going to be, and we know that already. If we were wanting to look for something that doesn't have a name or a number or something else on it, where would we go? Okay, we have to think first. There's stuff spinning around the sun every which way in every which direction. There's
Hmm.
so much stuff spinning around in every which direction, every which direction. First, any sensible person would say, I don't know why we haven't been hit yet, right?
For sure.
Because
For
there's
sure.
so much stuff. But as we think next, we say, okay, where are the hard things to see? And if you think like what I said about earlier in the sun, if a planet's on the other side of the sun, it's very hard to see because it's up during the daylight. You can't see
Yeah.
it
Right.
because it's there during the day. Well, if there's an object coming from the direction behind the sun, I'm not putting any jinx on it, so nobody in a year come back at me, okay? Because this is a real scenario for the
Okay.
for the NASA's and for the big boys. This is the real scenario. Here I am, though, the amateur astronomer. I just want something small. I don't care what it is. NASA and the big astronomers, if they see something big, this is a deal. So something coming from the other side of the sun is very hard to see. And it would take a very long, well, I shouldn't say a long time. It doesn't have to take very long. It has to get very close to us before we can see it.
Okay.
And if we don't know where it is going, we don't know where it's going until we have a couple observations and we can figure out the circle that it's taking. If we're NASA and we're doomsayers, we're just going to end the conversation because we don't know nothing about anything on that path.
Right.
I'm an amateur astronomer trying to do the same thing. I need to look right after the sun sets, right? It might still be twilight out, but what I'm looking at now is the part of space that's in this area. So I'm going to look right after the sun sets and right before the sun rises. And that's the space around the sun. And this is the areas that things go unnoticed.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And now there's if you want to look at other things, because some objects have these very inclined, we go, let's think of us around a plate. That's our orbit. An inclined orbit would be up and down from us, north and south. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can look way north and you can look way south as an option. But for me, the sun sucks in objects. So there's going to be more action around the sun. Okay, so now I got something on my telescope. I took a picture. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! I found something new, and this happened to me. Okay, so this
Okay.
joke's on me, right? But oh, found something new. It's on my camera. What am I going to do? Well, there's ways. Okay, there's the International Astronomical Union. There's a website called nova.astrometry.net where you can take a picture and upload it to nova.astrometry.net, and then do what's called plate solving. They'll put that picture in enough places, they match up enough stars, they know right where it was, and they can give
Okay.
you a lot of information, and they'll tell you the coordinates of where that object that you're looking at is. Then I'll take that information and I'll put it in another International Astronomical Union website to find out if there's any other objects in that space at that time. And that's what happened to me. Ooh, everything, I found something. Oh no, I just found something else. That's
it was
the
it was
that's the life of an amateur astronomer.
it was new to you, right? That's like
No, it was
not
exciting. It was exciting. It was like, oh, whatever. But so I've given you a general idea of that. Yes, new objects are discovered regularly. Every month, 10 or 11 objects, 12 more, could be more. They're called near Earth objects for the most part because they have to be
okay.
close to Earth to be regularly and discovered.
Okay.
Basically, it's about how bright does it get. When it gets closer to Earth, its brightness starts getting brighter, right? Because the
Sure.
sun, et cetera, is working on it in our perspective from Earth. When it's farther away, it's dimmer. Our telescopes from ground have a limit in magnitude of how dim it can get before we can see it. But if it's getting closer, then we see it, then we look at it again, and then we start putting orbits and discovering where they're going and whether they're a part of an existing known pattern. Oh, it just gets into numbers after them because
Wow.
there's millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of objects floating around in space. But I've made everything sound small and congested. The scale of the universe is untold. So
Okay.
let me not leave you with the thought that even in our neighborhood, it's a close. I mean, I have NASA scientists, and they start looking at objects that are newly discovered. They think they say, "Oh, this object's going to fly by Earth at 10 million miles and 15 million miles," and they, they talk about it, and it goes in the news. But there's objects that come in between us and the moon. That
Oh wow.
one lunar distance. The distance between Earth and the moon is on average 238,000 miles.
Uh-huh.
Well, there'll be stuff come zipping in about 33,000 miles from the surface of the Earth and 120,000 miles. And those are the ones you got to be interested
That sound
in.
that sounds close,
And there's a list.
relatively speaking.
There's a place. There's a list. But then once you get into all those things, you become what? An amateur astronomer, and
Very
you
nice.
you fall down a rabbit hole. And
Which
not in a
is
bad way. I never look at any situation, even if somebody wants to bring it to me in some negative way, because there's doomsayers and waynayers and all those things that go on.
yep.
There's not enough happiness and positivity going on, in my opinion, that I'm okay with that. Well, I've grown past that. If it's in your heart's content, I can't change that. I have what's in my heart, and we're going to go with it.
Perfect. Well, I'd tell you what, if somebody needs some pretty things in their life, they need to go take a look at this magazine and just see the pictures that are there. They are fantastic, and I would encourage everybody to go to the website, go to the Facebook, and start learning about this. See what's out there. don't be one of those that stands on the front porch and looks at the sky and says, "I wish I knew what was out there," because
you can
people
miss
like
it.
that's right. People like Francis and in places like Cosmic Obsession, they're out there and they're telling you what's out there. So with that, Francis, I want to say thank you for joining us today. And as I mentioned before, we're going to have to cut this off because I could talk all day and all evening about this, and I don't think my our people will appreciate that. Some people will, but thank you so much for your time today. And you got to hang with me here as I read a little stuff from our lawyers, and then we'll hope everybody will join us for the next podcast.
Thanks
Well,
for listening, everybody. Thank you. Have a great evening. Go out.
this podcast should not be copied, distributed, published, or reproduced either in whole or in part without the express written consent of HCTC. Any inquiries relating to the podcast should be directed to the manager of community relations, that's me, at podcast@hctc.net.